I can't have children, she said. The cowboy smiled. That's fine. I have some. I need someone to love them. In the quiet town of Dry Creek, where dust rolled through the streets like it had nowhere better to go, lived a woman named Clara Hayes. People in town knew her, but not really. She was the kind of person you noticed only if you needed something stitched or fixed. Her small shop sat near the edge of town, just before the road turned into open land. Clara lived a simple life. Every morning she opened her shop, cleaned her table, and started sewing. Her hands were always busy, but her mind often wandered. She did not talk much, and she never stayed long when people tried to make conversation. Some said she was shy, others said she was hiding something. The truth was, Clara carried a quiet sadness that never seemed to leave her. She avoided the center of town, especially the places filled with laughter, like the saloon or the small bakery where families gathered. Watching others be happy reminded her of something she believed she could never have. One warm afternoon, as Clara sat by her window working on a torn jacket, the sound of wheels and horses broke the usual calm. A wagon rolled slowly into town, led by a tall man on horseback. The man wore a worn hat, his face marked by sun and time. Behind him in the wagon sat 3 children. People began to notice. New faces always brought curiosity to Dry Creek. The man's name was Daniel Cross. He had traveled a long way, looking for a place to settle down. Life had not been easy for him. He had lost his wife some time ago, and since then, he had been raising his children on his own. It showed in his tired eyes, but also in the way he stayed close to them, always watching, always caring. The children were different from each other. Emma, the oldest, sat quietly, observing everything. Luke, the middle child, looked restless, like he wanted to jump out and run. And little Josie, the youngest, held a small doll tightly, her eyes filled with both wonder and uncertainty. Daniel stopped his wagon near the general store, asking around about work and a place to stay. The town was small, but it welcomed hard workers. Slowly, people began to offer help. Clara watched all this from her window. She didn't mean to stare, but something about the man and his children caught her attention. Maybe it was the way he spoke kindly to them. Maybe it was the way the children stayed close to him, like they trusted him completely. She shook her head and returned to her sewing. It was none of her business. Later that day, there was a soft knock on her shop door. Clara looked up, surprised. She rarely had visitors at that hour. When she opened the door, she found the cowboy standing there, holding a small shirt in his hand. Beside him stood Luke, looking slightly embarrassed. "Afternoon?" Daniel said politely. "I heard you're the best at fixing things around here." Clara nodded quietly. "What do you need?" Daniel held up the shirt. "My boy here had a little trouble climbing a fence," he said with a small smile. Luke looked down. "It got caught," he muttered. Clara took the shirt and examined the tear. It wasn't too bad. "I can fix it," she said simply. Daniel thanked her and stepped aside, letting Luke come in. The boy looked around the shop with curiosity while Clara began her work. Her hands moved quickly and carefully, as if sewing was the only thing she truly understood. Daniel watched her for a moment. There was something calm about her, something steady. "You've been here long?" he asked. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "A while?" "Seems like a peaceful place," he said. She didn't answer that. Peaceful wasn't the word she would use, but she let it pass. A few minutes later, she handed the shirt back, neatly repaired. Luke's face lit up. "It looks new," Daniel smiled. "Thank you. What do I owe you?" Clara shook her head. "It's fine." Daniel looked surprised but didn't argue. "I appreciate it." There was a small silence. Clara felt it pressing on her, like words were expected. Before she could stop herself, she spoke. "I can't have children." The words came out quietly, but clearly. She didn't look at him when she said it. For a moment, there was no sound. Daniel didn't seem shocked. He didn't look uncomfortable either. Instead, he studied her face, as if trying to understand what she meant beyond the words. Then gently, he smiled. "That's fine," he said. "I have some." Clara looked up, confused. He nodded toward the wagon outside, where the children were waiting. "I just need someone to love them," he added. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Clara didn't know how to respond. No one had ever said something like that to her before. No one had ever made her feel like what she lacked didn't matter. She felt something strange in her chest, something unfamiliar. Hope. Daniel tipped his hat lightly and turned to leave, calling for Luke to follow. The boy waved at Clara before running out. Clara stood in the doorway, watching them go. For the first time in a long while, the quiet of her shop felt different. Not empty. After that day, Clara tried to forget what the cowboy had said. She told herself it was just a simple moment, nothing more. But his words stayed with her. They came back to her while she worked, while she walked, even when she tried to sleep. I just need someone to love them. A few days later, Clara saw Daniel again in town. This time, the children were with him. Luke was running ahead, chasing nothing but his own energy. Emma walked close behind Daniel, quiet and careful. Josie held his hand, her small steps slow but steady. Clara tried to look away, but Daniel noticed her. "Miss Hayes," he said with a small nod. She stopped. "Mr. Cross." There was a short silence before he spoke again. "We settled just outside town. Got an old ranch. Needs work, but it'll do." Clara nodded. "That's good." Josie looked up at Clara, her big eyes curious. She hid slightly behind Daniel's leg but kept peeking. Daniel smiled. "She remembers you, the shirt you fixed." Clara gave a small, unsure smile. She wasn't used to children looking at her like that. Before she could say anything else, Luke ran back, out of breath. "Pa! The fence is broken again!" Daniel sighed lightly. "Guess I got work to do." He looked at Clara for a moment, then said, "If you ever feel like visiting, you're welcome." Clara didn't answer right away. "Maybe," she said quietly. A week passed. Clara thought about the ranch more than she wanted to admit. One evening, without planning it too much, she closed her shop early and walked toward the edge of town. The ranch wasn't hard to find. It looked old with a leaning fence and dry land, but there was life there. Smoke came from the chimney. The sound of children echoed in the air. Clara stopped at the gate, unsure. Before she could turn back, Josie saw her. "She's here!" the little girl shouted, running toward her. Clara froze as Josie reached her and hugged her legs tightly. It surprised her so much that she didn't move for a second. Daniel stepped out of the house, smiling slightly. "Guess that means you're not a stranger anymore." Clara slowly relaxed. "I didn't mean to disturb." "You're not," he said. "You're just in time." Emma stood near the door, watching carefully. Luke waved from behind the fence. Clara stepped inside. The house was nothing like her quiet shop. It was loud, messy, and full of movement. Boots near the door, dishes on the table, blankets not folded properly. Clara felt out of place at first. Josie stayed close to her, holding her hand like she didn't want to let go. Clara didn't pull away. Daniel handed her a cup of tea. "It's not much, but it's warm." "Thank you," she said softly. Luke started asking her questions right away. "Do you sew all day? Do you fix hats too? Can you fix my jacket if it tears again?" Clara nodded gently. "Yes, I can try." Emma said nothing. She just watched. Clara noticed it. The girl's eyes were careful, like she didn't trust easily. Dinner was simple. They all sat together. Clara didn't speak much, but she listened. She listened to Luke's stories, to Josie's soft voice, and to Daniel's calm replies. For a moment, she forgot her doubts. But they came back soon enough. Days turned into more visits. Clara started coming to the ranch sometimes after work. She helped with small things, mending clothes, cleaning a little, even cooking once or twice. But inside, she still felt unsure. She often told herself, "This is not your place." Emma kept her distance. She was polite, but cold. Clara understood. The girl had lost her mother. She was not ready to accept someone new. Luke was easier. He laughed, talked, and treated Clara like she had always been there. And Josie trusted her completely. That scared Clara the most. One evening, a strong storm came without warning. The wind howled and rain hit the roof hard. The house shook slightly with every strong gust. Inside, everything felt tense. Josie started to cry. Her small body felt hot when Clara touched her forehead. "She's burning," Clara said, worry in her voice. Daniel frowned. "Fever?" Clara nodded. "We need the doctor," he said, looking toward the door. But the storm was too strong. No one could leave. Panic filled the room. Luke stayed quiet for once. Emma looked scared but tried to hide it. Clara took a deep breath. "I'll take care of her," she said. Daniel looked at her. "Are you sure?" Clara nodded, even though her heart was racing. She had never done this before. Not like this. But she couldn't step back now. Through the long night, Clara stayed by Josie's side. She cooled her forehead with water, held her close, and spoke softly to calm her. She sang a simple song she barely remembered from her own childhood. Daniel stayed nearby, watching, trusting her. Hours passed. The storm slowly calmed outside. Inside, the silence grew heavy. Then, just before morning, Josie's breathing became easier. Her fever started to drop. Clara let out a quiet breath she didn't know she was holding. She's okay, she whispered. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, relief clear on his face. Emma stepped closer, looking at Clara differently now. Not with doubt, but with something new. Respect. Clara sat there, tired but still holding Josie gently. For the first time, she didn't feel like she didn't belong. But deep inside, a small voice still whispered, "What if this doesn't last?" For a short while, things felt calm at the ranch. Clara began to visit more often. She didn't just help anymore. She stayed longer, talked a little more, and slowly became part of the daily life. The house still felt loud and busy, but it no longer felt strange to her. Josie followed her everywhere. Luke brought her broken things just to see her fix them. Even Emma, though still quiet, started sitting near Clara sometimes, watching her sew without saying a word. Daniel noticed the change. He didn't rush anything. He simply let it grow, like something natural. One evening, as the sun was setting, they all sat outside. The air was warm, and for once, there was nothing to worry about. Clara listened as Luke laughed about something silly, while Josie leaned against her shoulder. It felt peaceful. But peace doesn't always stay. The next morning, a stranger rode into Dry Creek. He was not like Daniel. His clothes were cleaner, his posture sharper, and his eyes looked like they carried judgment. His name was Victor Hale. Some people in town recognized him, others didn't. But one thing was clear. He wasn't there by accident. Clara saw him from a distance. The moment her eyes met his, her face lost all color. She turned away quickly and went back inside her shop, closing the door behind her. Her hands began to shake. "He found me," she whispered. Victor didn't wait long. By afternoon, he stood outside Clara's shop, knocking firmly. "Clara Hayes," he called. "We need to talk." Clara didn't answer at first. She stood still, hoping he would leave, but he didn't. Finally, she opened the door slowly. Victor looked at her with a cold smile. "You've been hiding well." "I'm not hiding," she said quietly. "No?" he replied. "A new name, a small town, no past. Looks like hiding to me." Clara said nothing. Victor stepped closer. "Do they know?" he asked. "Do they know who you really are?" Her heart pounded. "Leave," she said. But Victor wasn't finished. "You think you can just start over?" he continued. "Like nothing happened?" His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough for others nearby to hear. People began to look. Clara felt their eyes on her, the same kind of look she had tried to escape. "You should go," she said again, her voice weaker now. Victor smirked. Truth has a way of catching up. Then he turned and walked away, leaving silence behind him. It didn't take long for whispers to spread. People in town began talking. Some remembered small details. Others added their own ideas. By evening, the story had changed many times. Emma heard it first. She was in town with Luke when she overheard two women talking. "They say she lost her own child." "No, I heard she left." "Something bad happened, that's for sure." Emma stood still, her mind racing. She didn't know what was true, but doubt began to grow. Back at the ranch, Clara felt it. The change in the air. Emma didn't sit near her that night. She stayed quiet, distant. Luke seemed confused. Josie, too young to understand, stayed close as always. Clara's heart grew heavy. Later that night, Emma finally spoke. "Is it true?" she asked. Clara looked up. "What?" Emma hesitated. "The things people are saying?" Clara didn't answer right away. That silence was enough. Emma's eyes filled with hurt. "You should have told us." Clara lowered her gaze. "I was afraid?" "Of what?" Emma asked. "Of us?" Clara's voice was soft. "Of losing this." Emma stepped back slightly. Daniel watched quietly. He didn't interrupt. He knew this moment mattered. "I didn't lie," Clara said. "I just didn't know how to say it." But the words didn't fix everything. Emma turned away. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She sat alone, thinking about everything. Her past, her mistakes, her fears. She had started to believe she could belong, that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where she was accepted. But now she wasn't sure anymore. She looked at the small room around her. It no longer felt warm. It felt temporary, like something she was never meant to keep. Before sunrise, Clara made her decision. Quietly, she packed her few things. She wrote a short note and left it on the table. Her hands trembled as she placed it down. Then, without making a sound, she walked out of the house. The sky was still dark. The ranch was silent. She didn't look back. A few hours later, Daniel woke up. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Josie was still asleep. Luke hadn't started moving yet, but Clara was gone. He found the note. He read it once, then again. His jaw tightened slightly, but his eyes stayed calm. Emma stood behind him. She left? Daniel folded the paper slowly. Yes. There was a long pause. Then Emma asked, Are you going after her? Daniel didn't answer right away. He walked to the door, looking out at the open land. Then, without another word, he reached for his hat. I am, he said. Because some people don't walk into your life by accident, and some are worth riding after. The morning sun had just started to rise when Daniel rode out of the ranch. The land stretched wide and quiet before him. Dry grass moved gently with the wind, and the sky slowly turned from dark blue to soft gold. But Daniel did not notice any of it. His mind was on one thing only, Clara. He knew she wouldn't go far. She had nowhere to go, and more than that, he knew why she left. She was afraid. Clara walked alone along the empty road, her small bag hanging from her shoulder. Each step felt heavy, but she didn't stop. She believed this was the right thing to do. She had seen the doubt in Emma's eyes. She had heard the whispers in town. Her past had followed her again, just like she feared it would. I don't belong there, she said softly to herself, but her voice didn't sound strong. It sounded broken. After some time, she reached the edge of a small valley. The land dipped slightly, with a few scattered trees offering shade. Clara stopped walking. Her legs felt tired, but it wasn't just that. Something inside her didn't want to move forward anymore. She looked back. The road behind her was long and empty. For a moment, she thought about turning around, but then she shook her head. No, she whispered. It's better this way. The sound of hooves broke the silence. Clara froze. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. Daniel. He slowed his horse as he came closer, then stopped a few steps away from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind moved softly between them. You left without saying goodbye, Daniel said finally. Clara kept her eyes down. It was easier. For who? He asked. She didn't answer. Daniel stepped down from his horse. Clara, look at me. Slowly she did. Her eyes were tired, filled with emotion she had tried to hide. You heard what people are saying, she said. You know about my past now. I know enough, Daniel replied calmly. She shook her head. No, you don't. You don't understand. Then help me understand, he said. Clara took a deep breath. I lost everything once, she said. I had a life, a family I thought would last, but it didn't, and after that, I couldn't have children. Her voice trembled slightly. I tried to stay strong, but people talked. They blamed me. They judged me, and I believed them. She looked away again. I came here to disappear, to live quietly without hurting anyone. Daniel listened without interrupting. But then I met you. And them, she continued. And for a moment, I forgot who I was. Her eyes filled with tears. And now, it's happening again. Emma doesn't trust me. The town is talking. I can't do that to your family. Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady. You're wrong. Clara looked at him confused. You didn't hurt my family, he said. You helped it. She shook her head. You don't see it. I do, he replied. I saw it the night Josie was sick. I saw it in the way Luke smiles when you fix his things. And I saw it this morning. He paused. In Emma's eyes. Clara frowned slightly. Emma doesn't trust me. She's scared, Daniel said. Just like you. Clara stayed silent. Daniel continued. Family ain't about having no past. It ain't about being perfect. He looked directly at her. It's about staying. It's about caring, even when things get hard. Clara felt those words settle deep inside her. You think leaving will protect us? He added. It won't. It'll just leave a space that no one else can fill. Back at the ranch, the children waited. Emma stood near the fence, looking down the road again and again. Luke kicked a small rock, restless. Josie sat quietly, holding Clara's old sewing thread in her tiny hands. Do you think she's coming back? Luke asked. Emma didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, I don't know. But her voice carried something new. Hope. Back in the valley, Clara closed her eyes for a moment. All her life, she had believed she was not enough. Not strong enough. Not worthy enough. Not complete enough. But Daniel's words made her question that. What if I fail? She asked quietly. Daniel gave a small smile. Then we deal with it together. Clara looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she nodded. When they returned to the ranch, the children were waiting outside. Josie was the first to react. She ran as fast as her small legs could carry her and wrapped her arms around Clara. "You came back," she said happily. Clara held her tightly, her heart full. Luke smiled wide. "I knew it." Emma stood still at first. Then, after a moment, she walked forward. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I just didn't understand." Clara shook her head gently. "You had every right to feel that way." Emma stepped closer. Then, slowly, she hugged her. It was not a big moment, but it meant everything. That evening, the house felt warm again. Not perfect, but real. Clara sat at the table, surrounded by noise, laughter, and life. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she was just visiting. She felt like she belonged. Not because she had given birth to the children, but because she chose to stay. And they chose her too. In the quiet of that night, as the stars filled the sky above the ranch, something simple became clear. Family isn't about what you are missing. It's about what you are willing to give. And sometimes, love is more than enough. Just waiting.